Hello, and welcome to 10 Minutes That Can Change Your Life. This program is brought to you each week by the Port Huron Church of Christ, located at 756 17th Street, right here in the city of Port Huron. Hey, we're glad that you are with us today. We want you to know that we really appreciate your support if you've been following this program. And if you've enjoyed it, would you please share with your friends on Facebook? We would really appreciate that. Well, today we are going to continue our search in understanding who is the giver of the gift that we talked about and identified in Romans 6:23. It said the gift came from God, and now we want to know who God is, and we decided to go back, if you remember, and look at how it all began. There's a lot of discussion out there as to the origin of man. The fundamental questions that all people ask is, who am I? What am I doing here? What is this for? And all of those questions are answered now through our reading today. I want you to really pay attention and listen. If you missed last week, I need you to go back and review what we talked about last week. Because, well, the last 2 weeks actually, because we began to talk about who we are. The fundamental question of how did we get here? Where did this all come from? What's going on? All of those questions are found within our discussion of the last 2 weeks. So you may want to go back and review that and then follow us this week because we're going to continue. On last week, if you remember, we talked about the beginning. The Bible said, in the beginning, God. That statement set the stage for all that's going on right now that we see. For the solar system, for all that's been created in nature, it's the explanation of where it all came from. You know, it's interesting how science is trying to come up with their own idea of how it all began. And I heard a story recently of a scientific explanation that there was this matter, this small dot of matter, and this small dot of matter grew and grew and grew until it exploded, and then we have everything that we have today. And okay, if that could have happened, I'm okay with that. However, I still have one question for you. Where did the matter come from? See, you can't take nothing and get something from it. And that's what they're trying to say. Everything started from nothing. But if it was matter, it didn't start from nothing. The matter came from nothing. So where did the matter originate? And that's where we come to when we come to Genesis 1:1, and the Bible opens up in this powerful way and says, hey man, listen, if you want to know how this all began, if you want to know where it all came from, read this. In the beginning, God created. So there was an originator, is what I'm telling you. And if someone created something, then that someone had to be bigger than the creation. So God does not fit inside of his creation. He is the creator over creation. Now, we're going to get into that discussion a little bit later, because if he now is responsible for all of creation, for everything that we see, everything that we experience, even our existence, which is important, and we're going to talk about that more today, then how should we respond to him? That's a good question. And that's one that I really want us to ponder honestly. Like I said, you hear all of these different theories and philosophies about how all of this started, but you really have to ask the next question. They give you their view of the answer, but go back a step and say, well, where did that come from? If you originated from a primate, okay, where did he come from? Well, he came from this. Where did that come from? Well, and after a while, you begin to realize that at some point in time, what they believe today started from a good guess way back here, and the longer we hold on to that thinking, the more real it becomes in our minds. But right back here at the very beginning, it was just an idea that somebody had, but let's face it, and let's be honest, they weren't there. No one was there. So when they start saying the earth is 40 billion years old, how do they know that? Well, you say, Lamar, they have carbon dating. They can date things now. Really? So let me ask you this. Do they also discount the thought that a God who created everything, the heavens and the earth, as the Bible says, could not create a mature heaven and earth? And that they're dating, that they base this on, you got to remember now, man is playing catch up to God. And what I mean by that, God has created everything, and man is using the intellect that God gave him. Now, get this right here. You have God's intellect and you have man's intellect, and the intellect that man has given, that God has given man, man is using that to understand God and what God created. So you have a limited thing trying to understand an unlimited thing. Are you starting to get the picture here? And I'll tell you why I'm really making a point here. Because if you can get this, and if you can see through the cosmic noise that's out there concerning all of this, and see clearly how the Bible says all of this came into being, it will all begin to make sense in your mind. And then if that makes sense, you can follow the rest of it and understand what God is saying when he said there is a problem within man that shows up in Genesis 3. And because of that problem in man, it was necessary to give the gift. See what I'm saying? How it turns out now? The gift didn't just show up out of nowhere for no reason. The gift was promised. The gift was forecasted a long time ago. And God is showing that this is the culmination. This is the gift showing up. This is this that I talked about way back here thousands of years ago. Is coming to pass now. So it all ties together. But if you don't understand the beginning of the story, if you don't understand the beginning and the origin of things, nothing else behind it is going to really make sense to you. But when you get the beginning of it, it clicks. You know why? Because God designed us that way. He wants us to know him. He designed nature in a way that would be inquisitive to us. And every time we see something in nature, to sit and watch a tree bud at the right time of the year, or to watch a flower come out of the ground, and then it begins to bloom into this beautiful flower, and you just go, wow, how did that happen? My favorite was when I was gardening. I had all these seeds that I kept all winter long, and I was waiting for the spring to come to plant them. So I was collecting these seeds, and they were just seeds in a bag. That's all they were. I drop them in the ground. I cover them with dirt, put some water on them, and you know what they did? They sprouted, and they began to grow, and food came from them. And I scratched my head and said, how did all of that happen? What's in the dirt that made this do this? What's in the water that made this do this? How did this happen? And God is saying, aha, now you're on the right track. Now you're asking the right questions, because he knows that the more we question what we see, that's another step toward understanding that he exists. And that's what God is doing. You know, I talked about some weeks ago the Hubble telescope, and how since we have that telescope, it's given scientists the ability to look further beyond what they've ever seen before. And they're saying, oh boy, There's more out there. There's more than we've ever known was out there. It's endless out there. Well, years ago they said it was not. It was just this. But now they know differently. And that's how God is. The more you understand about him, the more you see of him, the greater he becomes. And now you're beginning to understand the creator of the universe. Until that, you'll buy the theories that we are just come from primates, the Big Bang Theory, postmodernism and all of their theories. But it's this right here. It's this account given to us in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 that talks about what God did in the beginning. Now you say, Lamar, when was the beginning? It doesn't matter. Whenever the beginning was, God did it. And the Bible even goes so far, and this is the wisdom of God. He said, I know you're going to have problems with this, and you're going to wonder what happened and how all of this came into being. So I'm going to give you the answer. I'm going to lay it out for you in a way that makes logical sense to you so that you can begin to appreciate and understand what I did. And so he broke it down into a days. This is the first day, the second day, and showed you how methodically everything was created by his voice. Now we can't conceive that because we can't make anything by our voice but enemies. By using our voice, we make people mad at us. But we can't bring anything into existence that wasn't already here. And that baffles our mind because in order to make anything, we have to have something to start with. To make a diamond ring, you have to have the gold that's found in the ground. You have to have the diamond that comes out of the ground. Well, how did it get there? In the beginning, God. All of the metal that we have in our existence came out of the ground. Well, how did it get there? In the beginning, God. You see, all of the answers go back to the very same origin, God. And when we begin to get that and understand that, then the rest becomes very easy to understand. Satan is trying to blindfold mankind into not looking at that, not wanting to understand that. He doesn't want us to look for God because he knows that God will allow himself to be found. And God put in all of us a little space in us that makes us go look for him. So, we were going to read Genesis 2 today. It looks like that's not going to happen because guess what? You guessed it. Our time is up. Our 10 minutes have expired, but I want us to understand this and lock into this and understand how important it is because it's right here that if this isn't important to you, if you don't see the magnitude of what I'm trying to say, nothing else would ever make sense. And you will walk away and say, it's just nothing. But if you take time to look at it and think about it and read it and reread it and get it, then it'll make all the difference in the world. Hey, this is Lamar Black, the minister of the Port Huron Church of Christ, telling you and reminding you that God created all things in the beginning. And you can change your life 10 minutes at a time by reading his word and understanding who this God is. God bless you for being with us today. We want to invite you back next week, right here, as we continue our discussion in the God of the universe. Until then, be safe. We'll see you next week.